You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. This weekend, a rare opportunity to revisit some choral favorites presented by the always outstanding Polycoro. New School kicks it old school in a celebration of works that have helped shape Polycoro's identity and develop their artistry. To hear more, conductor and artistic director John Wiens has joined me. Good to see you, John.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Wonderful to have you back, twice in pretty much a month. What a treat this is for us.
Yeah, lucky us, right?
And it means that there's plenty of wonderful choral music going on here in town. So before we get to what's planned, it was 9 years ago that Polycoro sought to change the choral landscape and cultivate a new sound, further enriching the already fruitful choral community here in the province. Just to recap that, 9 years? Has it really been 9 years, John?
I can't believe it. I didn't have any gray hair. I was a lot younger. I had fewer children and a lot more energy.
Well, can you remind us of those early days? The ensemble came together after a pickup group of soloists was put together to sing some Bach motets. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, the Bach tet, which is more than 9 years ago now.
Yeah, 2012, I think.
Wow. Yeah. That was organized by my wonderful brother, Paul, and a couple of years later, he and Zori Gervais and Neil Middleton and I decided to try something with a little more staying power, and look what it turned into.
Look what it turned into.
Yeah.
You've gone on to give some pretty incredible performances, which we'll get to in just a minute. But one of the other notes that I was struck by, in the 9 years of Polycoro, you've only repeated 90 minutes of music. That's 10 minutes per year for some quick mental math.
It's actually a little less than that. I just put that in because that was an easy round number.
It is an easy round number, but I think this speaks to the exclusivity of the event that is a Polycoro concert. So a sort of silly question here, but why is it so important to nearly always bring something new to the table?
Well, the singers appreciate a challenge. That's number one. And number two, I think it helps us to grow as artists. And when I was, when I think about our early years versus now, there's no question that our ability with this style of music and our facility to get to it quickly and find the heart of it and work from the heart of a piece has really grown, just like exponentially over the years. And part of that has been the luxury of having, a real core of singers who have stuck with us over all that time. And I think part of it has been, just our general curiosity as musicians.
You now make your home in La Belle Provence.
That's
you're
right.
You're over in Quebec. You're back in Winnipeg for these concerts to work with Polycoro and other ensembles too. But one of the things that I think might surprise listeners is how few rehearsals there are leading up to concerts. I mean, this speaks to the caliber of the singers and what y'all are putting out there. But in this particular case, you finally have the opportunity to revisit a few of those works. Does that give you an even greater starting off point because there is that shared experience when you're diving into the past? Or do you bring a fresh approach once again when you're going back through the catalog?
Well, people won't hear our performances the same way we did them on YouTube, if that's what you're asking. It's a different group of people, and that will, because of their instruments are different, that means that our performances will be different. And their minds are different. So, they approach these things in different ways. I will tell you this. For those of us who have sung the pieces before or performed the pieces before, we have more familiarity, so we get to it faster. Mm-hmm. But, the face of the choral landscape changes. It's never consistent even from year to year. So, people who sang with us 8 or 9 years ago, there aren't actually that many now because every year there's a voice or two that comes in or out. And so over a period of time, although we're repeating repertoire in a sense, there's definitely repertoire there that, half the ensemble or more has never sung. And that makes it both challenging and enlivening because we get to have this juxtaposition of familiarity versus, seeing it and experiencing it for the very first time. And that creates a lot of internal dialogue in terms of the energy that comes to the piece.
So before embarking on this second decade of Polycoro, a look back at a few of the faves and where to begin, John, as artistic director, because there have been so many faves. How did you go about choosing repertoire?
I put it all into a really big spreadsheet, organized it by concert, and then I started choosing repertoire that had been commissioned. And so we've got 4 or 5 commissions on the program. And the tricky thing about commissions is oftentimes they only get performed once. You present it, and then it's out in the world, and other organizations might pick it up, but they might not. And so I just thought, well, all of these pieces are very good, and we should perform them again, because it would be nice to get more people to hear them and have a chance to consider them for their own ensembles. And there are some pieces that we did in the pandemic, like Scott Reimer's wonderful Light of a Clear Blue Morning, that we have never performed because we did it in studio.
Can you drop a couple other commissioned composers' names for us?
Yeah, sure. Neil Weisensell wrote us a terrific Benedictus, I think in year 3 of Polycoro. I think year 3. And Amy Brandon wrote us a wonderful composition last year, Night is the Darkest of Weather. And she followed it up with a series of pieces this year, which we're going to present a selection of. And it's a really interesting set of pieces called Enigmata. Basically, it's like they're like riddles.
I was going to say, tough to describe.
Well, actually, what they are is they're riddles. And she takes like I guess 10 or 12 lines of text that create the whole riddle, and then she only pulls out 3 or 4 that she sets to music. And if and we're not providing the titles for everybody, so we're hoping that people will keep track of it and try to guess.
Lean in and really embrace that riddle. Now, there's also going to be some familiar names, even some Bach appearing on the program. And we were talking about the roots of Bach. There is no Bach.
No,
there is no Bach. All right.
We had to switch that. We switched it for Gabrielli.
Oh, I mean, tough choices to be made here, John. Tough choices to be made.
Very, very hard there. Yeah, we've got early pieces by Gabrielli and Hieronymus Pretorius, a name that should be on everybody's lips in Manitoba and isn't yet. But we're getting there.
We're getting there. I mean, the Praetorius Bunch, a very musical a la Bach clan. And even those who maybe aren't necessarily related, Praetorius Schultz or Schutz, the Latinized version of that name. So if there are any Schultzes listening right now, hey, well, there's maybe a former family member way down the family line. Now, in terms of this concert, this is one that you're going to be taking on the road. Performances in Brandon, Carman, and then Winnipeg. Why was it important to take this show, New School, on the road?
There's that song by John Mellencamp, Small Town. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
feels right.
So many of us are from small towns. Really, like I haven't canvassed the choir to find out where they all come from, but so many of us come from small town Manitoba, and it just doesn't feel right to stay in Winnipeg all the time. I keep trying to get Polycoro out into smaller towns every single season. And this was a really good excuse. Yeah,
really good excuse indeed. It's a wonderful opportunity for those in smaller communities to hear some really outstanding singing.
When I was a kid, Southern Manitoba Concerts had the Vienna Boys Choir, and I want to say the King Singers. I definitely heard the King Singers in Winnipeg here, and I heard Chanticleer and a number of other ensembles like that. And all of those experiences were really formative. They really showed me how all the different ways that music can communicate with people. So I just want to give opportunities to budding musicians in those centers a chance to hear what I think is some really good choral singing.
I think so too, John. I think so too. We've been talking a lot about the past 9 years of Polycoro, the new decade nearly upon the ensemble. What do you foresee in Polycoro's future? Do you have a glass ball, big plans?
It's a time of renewal. There's going to be a lot of thinking over the next few months and years about how we want Polycoro to have an impact on the community here. And I think that we're definitely looking at it from more of a holistic perspective. At the beginning, we were really, really gung-ho about performance and, being like a real, doing our best to be a top-level performing choir in Canada. And I think we've accomplished that. But I also feel like there's more to be done here. There's more support that the community needs. The pandemic has created some incredible challenges for choral programs all across the country, not just in Manitoba. And it's time for those of us who benefited from an easier environment for learning how to be, choral musicians to find a way to give back to the community. And so that's a big part of the challenge, the new challenge. And I think also learning about what Manitoba audiences find compelling now. I think we had a really, really good handle on that in the last 9 years. But audiences change.
They do.
Yeah, it's just like the members of an ensemble change. So part of our plans are to present concerts that the audience gets to have a say in.
Ooh. Oh, this is like a la Goosebumps. Choose your own adventure, or no, maybe not quite so much.
Something like that.
All right. Well, looking forward to it. Lots to look forward to in the new decade. In the meantime, don't miss the opportunity to hear works you may have missed the first time round, because they don't come round all too often, especially when sung by Polycoro. Brandon Saturday, Carmen Sunday, Winnipeg Monday. Great seeing you as always, John.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're going to end this interview with an oldie but a goodie, going back on the Polycoro YouTube page. This is some music of Orlando de Lassus, shared and uploaded 7 years ago. We're going to hear some, a Gloria from the Misa Osculetur Mei.
Wow.